Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-filled gush for The Magician King by Lev Grossman. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you've not read this book, I will link my spoiler-free review on the screen. So as I said in my review, I enjoyed this book immensely more than the first book. I enjoyed Quentin as a character a lot more, even though he continues to make stupid decisions, but at least he knows now that he's making dumb decisions. Like, I actually kind of liked when we have him constantly questing after something, because that is his character. Like, dude is never happy, and he's never satisfied. And again, there's a bunch of like mental health kind of metaphors and stuff with this, and the fact that like magicians are always like depressed people and stuff like that, so I really do enjoy that element to it. But again, like, Quentin has everything he's ever wanted. He's living in Fillory, he's a king, he has magic, like, he should be happy. And he's not. He's always like, this thing is like what's gonna make me complete, and he's always searching after that. And I think that's so true of what would happen if like people had magic. Like, you wouldn't be satisfied with like this little bit of magic. Like, he says, you know, like, I'm the magician king, like, I am so powerful, and still he's just like, he's not happy. And I think that that is really cool that that continues throughout the series. Like, he never quite learns, but he's not gonna learn, because that is his behavior and that is his personality, and like, everything can be taken from him constantly, and he's still like trying to find something like bigger and better, because it's like never, the adventure's never over for him, which is good for us as readers because we want to follow him on these adventures. I also really loved the addition of Julia. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Julia because I really liked Alice in the first book. Like, there were times when she kind of like rubbed me the wrong way, but overall I really liked Alice. So we had Julia, and I was like, is she going to be like a love interest for him? Like, what's going on? And at first I thought that was going to happen, but then we get her whole backstory, and I just love her so much, and like everything she went through. And again, she's another character where she's like really bitter, and she's really angry, and like, she's super smart, but it's not enough. It's never enough. And I like the connections that are made between the first book and this book, and how we learned all about like Quentin's story in the first book and what he went through. And a lot of what he went through is mirrored in Julia's experience, even though she isn't willing to admit that like what they went through might be similar. Like, even though a lot of things she went through were like darker and harder, but like not even, because a lot of things that he went through, like Breakbills wasn't this wonderful like heavenly place, and she thought that it was, but he went through a lot of really horrible stuff, and she went through a lot of really horrible stuff, and a lot of their experiences are like mirrored. Even some of their challenges, and especially at the very end challenge. So if you compare what Julie went through at the end with like a red god coming and like destroying all of her friends and killing everyone that she knew, it's very similar to what Quentin went through when they went to Ember's tomb, and that like red giant thing came and killed almost everybody. And then we had like the giant of like Martin come and like killing everybody. So it's two very similar experiences where like there's all this build up for this like adventure, and then like almost everybody dies. It's a very similar experience, especially with like the red giant god kind of thing, that I noticed as being very similar. Then we do have something that I am uncomfortable with, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. I do have faith that it's going to be handled well, or hopefully brought up again, and something happens with this, because it was an uncomfortable experience, and I think it's supposed to be uncomfortable. But Julia being raped by the fox god was a very uncomfortable thing, especially because her source of power kind of comes from that, and I'm very like, how are we going to interpret that like as being raped like makes you more powerful, but like it could also be a good spin because it's like a strong survivor thing. Like, I don't really know how that's going to be handled, and I'm not sure if there's any significance to the fact that like Julia was raped by a fox god, and then Quentin and Alice had that like their sexual experience as foxes in like the Antarctic in the first book. Like, I don't know if there's any kind of like mirror between that, but I did notice that was like kind of a similarity thing. But I am interested to see what happens with her rape being like the source of her power, and also taking away some of her humanity, but then she eventually becomes like a demigod from this experience. It's all not quite wrapped up yet, so that's something that I am a little bit uncomfortable with, because I'm not sure how that's going to be handled. But I do hope we get to see more of Julia, like, especially with the ending, and I talked about this in my review, but you never expect this series to do what it does, even though you constantly know that things aren't how you think they're going to be. You still think that they are, because you do have this like very classic, you know, we have this new adventure, and you run into all these old characters that you had in the first book. So like, that's cool. And it is very like fantasy, like Deus Ex Machina, like all of a sudden we're seeing all the same people we saw before. So Lev Grossman sets you up to have these expectations and to like expect certain things, even though you know from experience that it's not going to turn out the way that you thought it was going to. So with Quentin at the end, like, I was starting to pull for Quentin a ton towards the end of this book, and the fact that he doesn't get to go through the door. Like, he did all the right things, he became the hero, he's being constantly warned that like being a hero means you have to like have sacrifices and stuff like that. But you still think he's gonna get through at the end. And he doesn't. And he gets punished and Ember sends him back. And you're just like, all this time, I've just tried to get back to Fillory with Quentin, and now I'm not. And it's just like, it's a disaster. And I'm still like in shock that like, did he really just get kicked out? And he's like not even the king anymore. And like Josh and Poppy have taken like the spot. What? So I don't know what's gonna happen with this. Like, this series now is so like up in the air because at the end of the last book you have them like going back to Fillory. It's like, okay, they're gonna go back to Fillory. Yay. And now it's like, are we getting back to Fillory? Is Fillory the end goal anymore? Like, the last book is called Magician's Land. Like, what's gonna happen there? I'm wondering if Magician's Land has anything to do with like the other land that Penny was talking about as being like kind of like heaven or whatever. If you're gonna try to go there, because I'm feeling like at this point like Fillory doesn't want them or doesn't want him. So like, where's he gonna go? Or is Fillory still gonna be like the end goal, even though like he's left Fillory so many times at this point because he's never happy? Like, what? So I'm interested to see if that like all gets wrapped up. Like, again, we do have like references back to like the first book and like the Watchroom, and we see like Martin again and like the underworld, which I love that there was an underworld kind of thing. Like, they went to the underworld, you know how that speaks to me. So that's interesting. But I'm just not sure where it's gonna go. And that's what I really love about the series. Like, I don't really know what's gonna happen now, and like I have no idea. I have no thoughts about it. But I just hope we see more of Julia, and we're obviously gonna be with Quentin, and yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. And I'm really excited to discuss this book at length and this whole series at length with Kayla in September. We're gonna do a live show, which I will link all the information for down below. Really excited for that. But yeah, I just don't know what's gonna happen, and I'm very excited. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of The Magician King. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!